Max, we're a week away from college football actually kicking off. A week away. We're also less than 2 weeks away now from college football actually kicking off here in the Triangle. What's an ideal start for North Carolina? What's an ideal start for Duke? What's an ideal start for NC State this upcoming season? Now, I say ideal, but also keeping things realistic. Because obviously ideal 4-0. But that's not going to happen because NC State and Duke have to play each other week 4. So it's not a realistic thing. Ideally, obviously, but again, let's keep things realistic for teams. We'll start Carolina. Since Duke and State play each other in week 4, let's go ahead and start with Carolina, Max. I think ideal start, and I think a realistic start is 3-1, simply based on their schedule. TCU last year, a team that won 9 games, they returned a bunch of the starters, including their starting quarterback, and his last name's Hoover, who had nearly 4,000 yards passing last season, 3,949 yards last year, had 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He's coming back. Now, Savion Williams, Tesh, a couple of their big-time wide receivers are gone. These guys were drafted in the NFL. Now, one of his second leading receiver in yards, a name escapes me right now, Williams, is coming back next year, this upcoming season. So he definitely did lose a lot in terms of his receiving core, but the fact that the quarterback is coming back is, in my eyes, is very important because continuity is something that really lacks in college sports, really as a whole, is continuity, especially now with the transfer portal. But you have a quarterback coming back that threw for nearly 4,000 passing yards last season. And also you look at some of the losses that TCU suffered last year. They were high-scoring games. I'm talking like a 37-34, a 35-34 games that they lost by putting up points. And they went 9-4 last year in the Big 12 as a Big 12 team. I think with so much uncertainty for UNC, it's hard to really know what their team is going to do and react on actual game day.
Yeah,
I mean, just so much unknown.
They've got, 70 new players with combined transfers and freshmen this year?
70 new guys. I think 30 or 40 of them have been new just since the end of spring practice. It's hard to incorporate all these new guys into a team right away. And I brought up, last week we did cons and cons, confidence and concerns for ACC football teams in the Triangle. And my concern about UNC football is, who are the leaders on the team? Because it's one thing if you're Clemson and pretty much all your guys have come through the Clemson program. You have guys that are already established in Cade Klubnik at quarterback or TJ Parker on the defensive line. These guys that are established leaders on the team that have already been ingrained on the culture of that team. When things hit the fan, you know you can rely on those veteran guys to help calm things down or lead the way or lead the locker room. When they have a whole bunch of new guys together, who establishes that? And you never know if things go bad. You know, if Carolina finds themselves down 21-7 at halftime and guys are frustrated, who takes control in the locker room? Do guys feel like they should be it, but really they maybe aren't best fit for it? Again, that's a dynamic that only is discovered in due time. So for me, I think TCU comes in and gets a win to start the season at Carolina. In my eyes. Now, it might be a good game, might be a close game. Obviously, that'll be determined. But I think there's just too much continuity, especially offensively, back for TCU, and there's just too many new pieces for Carolina week 1 to figure it out. But then they go on the road to a team like Charlotte, which is not – they're ranked, in the bottom 12 of the FBS by some pundits. They're not very highly viewed upon, Charlotte, this upcoming season. And then you play FCS school in Richmond. And then you play Central Florida, who went 4-8 last year. And actually one of their games was an upset win against TCU. But they played above their level in that game. It was a 35-34 game. But they played above their level. Central Florida, a little bit more of a turnover of their roster. I think UNC, in theory, hopefully if after the season opening loss in my eyes against TCU, should be able to right the ship against Charlotte and Richmond, work the kinks out, and then find their flow. I think 3-1 is both ideal and realistic for UNC football the first 4 games of the season.
I think honestly, UCF is sort of in a similar position to UNC because they got all that roster turnover. But we can't overlook it's Scott Frost's first year back as the head coach.
That's right, he's
at
back.
UCF. And I don't know if I would go so far as to say that is a game UNC should win. It is definitely a game that they can win, and I would not be surprised if they won. But I also would not be surprised if they dropped that one on the road. Now, I don't know how jumping it will be in the bounce house, which is UCF's home field, but when it is packed out and the fans are engaged, that is a really tough place to play. And it's not hard to see a scenario where those students and those fans do kind of get up and get excited, like, oh, Bill Belichick and UNC are coming to town, like we need to show out for this game. So I think asking to win all four of those is definitely a reach, especially with TCU. And they could drop UCF, but I definitely realistically could see 3-1 for them in the first 4 weeks.
That's what I think ideal and realistic, I think, is 3-1 to start the season. A loss at home to start the year against TCU, but then 3 straight wins. Again, we're looking at the first 4 games of the year. Let's go to Duke. Let's go to Duke next. They start the year against Elon. That should be a win. There's an FCS school at home. That's on Thursday night, the same night that NC State plays East Carolina. Then they're at home on Saturday, September 6th against Illinois. I think this one might be a little bit more of a rough go. I think this is where you're going to see, in my eyes, Darian Mensah and the offense will probably look good against an FCS opponent in Elon. Don't be shocked if it's a 3-0 game after the first quarter, but then the offense kind of gets their groove a little bit. Then the offense puts up some stats against Elon, them being Duke. But then you go into a tougher game against Brett Bielema and Illinois. At home, I think that's one that they drop. In my eyes, I think that's one that they drop. Then they got to go on the road to Tulane. I think in my eyes, they should go on the road and beat an FBS school, even a good one like Tulane. You took Tulane's quarterback. I know people are going to say, well, they got BYU's quarterback. I understand that. But they should, in my eyes, should go on the road, and especially with their defense. They should go on the road and beat Tulane, in my eyes. Which then gets into, Max, the Week 4 game against NC State. We'll discuss that here in just a moment. So I think Duke obviously Duke beat NC State last year. I think it'll be a pretty good game. You're at home against NC State. I think ideal and realistic can be 3-1 for Duke. That is a honestly realistic 3-1 for Duke, but I would not be surprised if it is 2-2. And I'm very bullish on Duke this upcoming season.
Yeah. I mean,
I very much am.
I think they're a really good team with a really good defense with Manny Diaz at the helm. They definitely have the toughest path out of the 3 to get to 4-0. Just with that Illinois game and the Tulane game on the road is not going to be easy.
And NC State shouldn't be a pushover either.
No, definitely not. But those 3, I mean, one of them is Group of 5 in Tulane, but that is they are probably the favorites to win in the American. They're at least among the probably 2 or 3 teams that are favorites to win that conference. And they just got BYU's former quarterback as transfer in Jake Retzlaff, so that's not going to be easy either. I could see anywhere from 2-2 to 4-0 for them. I mean, the only one that you want to guarantee as a win is Elon, and then after that, could go either way in the next 3, honestly.
I think Illinois is one that they drop. I think so.
More than likely, yeah.
Again, the Week 4 game against NC State is going to be a big one because let's look at NC State's schedule. You have East Carolina coming into town to Carter Finley. We've talked about that game quite a bit. We'll definitely dive more into that next week. By the way, Thursday next week, we will be at Carter Finley Stadium. We will be at Carter Finley Stadium doing the show.
2 weeks.
I'm sorry, 2 weeks. 2 weeks. My apologies. And next week is the Numbers game live. In 2 weeks, we'll be at Carter Finley. But East Carolina coming in. You simply have to win that game if you're NC State. Plain and simple. And you can win that game, and you should win that game. You should not allow an FBS school from in your state to come into your building and beat you. If you are Duke, your State, your Carolina, none of the FBS schools, the group of 6 schools that are, App, ECU, Charlotte, should not come into your building and beat you. Plain and simple. So you have to win that game. And I think NC State obviously can win that game. I think especially going into year number 2 with CJ Bailey and the offensive guys all coming back, that's going to be a big game for them. But that definitely is 100% a winnable game. Then they got to go on the road take on Virginia. You should beat Virginia. You're a better program right now than Virginia. It's plain and simple. Wake Forest, same thing. You should beat Wake Forest. Now, granted, it's a Thursday night game. Thursday nights against Wake Forest haven't been too kind to NC State and Dave Doeren. There's history there.
They have not.
There's history there. But in my mind, they should beat the Demon Deacons. Should. And then it kind of, again, ties into that last game against Duke, that Week 4 game. Again, we're looking at starts of the season, first 4 games of the year. It's not out of the realm of possibility, and I'm not trying to blow smoke here, that NC State can be 4-0 to start this season. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Now, if our prediction of Duke going 3-1 to start, then that puts NC State at 3-1. We might actually legit be looking at State, Duke, and Carolina all 3-1 to start this upcoming season, which is great. I want these teams to all win. I want to look at the end of the season, we're seeing 9-win teams here in the Triangle, or it's 9-win NC State and 9-win Carolina and 9-win Duke all playing each other at the end of the season. That's what I want to see. I want to see these teams pushing to go to the ACC championship game. That's what I want. It's more fun that way. But it is not out of the realm of possibility for NC State, looking at their first 4 games, should beat ECU at home, should beat Virginia, should beat Wake Forest, and we'll see what happens against Duke. Duke's not going to be an easy out for anyone this season.
No, they're certainly are not, especially at home. And as I mentioned, Duke has probably the most difficult path to 4-0. NC State probably has the easiest path. That's not to say that they will go 4-0, because you're playing 3 ACC teams and only 2 of them are actual ACC games. Thanks for that, ACC.
Yeah.
But it is tough. Usually in the history of the series, at least since 2000, the home team typically wins in the series between Wake and State. Couple of outliers along the way, but the home team has been typically able to bring that one home. It's varied sometimes, but so it's not going to be easy even with a rebuilding Wake with a new coach. And then maybe a toss-up against Duke at best. Again, before we see them actually take the field, it's kind of hard to say what level they're going to be playing at this year. Obviously, we're bullish on Duke. And we've mentioned many times, like, NC State has kind of been a little more subdued on the hype this year, maybe kind of trying to, build behind the scenes and kind of surprise people versus having the high expectations and having it crash down. So
sure,
the path is there. They just have to come out and execute, and, a couple key pieces need to fit in. New coordinators, second-year jump for CJ Bailey.
Yeah.
Depends on a lot of progress being made, but
there is.
NC State at 4-0 and the other 2 at 3-1. I think those are very realistic scenarios and about the top that they can achieve in those first 4 weeks.
I think so. I think realistically, ideally realistically, I think for North Carolina, 3-1 to start, because that first game against TCU is not going to be an easy one at all. And then the next 3 games after that are against teams that are not that good in my eyes. And then in Central Florida, we'll see what, with Scott Frost being back and, transfer portal and all that kind of stuff. We shall see. But they got Charlotte and Richmond in there. At minimum, they should be 2-2. At minimum, UNC should be 2-2 through the first 2 games. Then looking at Duke, I think at minimum they should be 2-2. Again, Illinois is not going to be an easy game. I think Illinois is a loss for Duke in my eyes. That's, again, how I view it going in. But then the NC State game, the exact same thing. I think that's a coin flip type game, especially I know the game is in Durham. I know you mentioned that, but it's right down the road. It's 30 minutes. There'll be a sea of red over there at Wallace Wade Stadium. I mean, it's going to be a 50-50 crowd. At most. Let's be honest. Let's call it what it is. And then NC State, I think it is realistic for them to go 4-0 to start this season. It absolutely is realistic. But if you want to make an argument and say, hey, what, East Carolina could pull off the upset to start the season, well, yeah, I saw that bowl game last year. I saw it. Now, again, these teams are different because transfers and freshmen and all that kind of stuff coming in. I get it, but that's just how I view it. That's just how I view it.